Analysis of matter sequence of occurrence of material properties today is June 13th, 1998. We're going to discuss the sequence of occurrence of material properties. We'll start by looking at Kamavakara Bhumi, or the sense sphere. At conception, there are four kinds of beings. 1. Moisture-born beings, such as mosquitoes. 2. Spontaneous-born beings, which includes the celestial worlds and Brahma worlds, as well as human beings at the beginning of the world. 3. Womb-born beings, like humans. 4. Egg-born beings, such as chickens. Depending on four conceptions, we have four kinds of beings. Moisture-born beings. At the time of their patisandhi, there is eye decad, ear decad, nose decad, tongue decad, body decad, sex decad, and heart-base decad. How many is that? 7. So, at the time of conception, a moisture-born being obtains 7 decads. However, 4 of them can be deficient. What are they? Eye, ear, nose, and gender. These beings might lack these decads. As such, at the time of conception they might be blind, deaf, or perhaps lack nose sensitivity. Or maybe they don't have a gender. In other words, they can be deficient in these. But they must have the other decads. They may or may not have them all. During their lifetime, these beings can have all rupas. This means that they can obtain all 28 kinds of material properties, except for those which may be deficient. So we're discussing here how many decades can be obtained for moisture-born beings at conception and during the course of their existence. There can be 7 decades at conception, but eye, ear, nose, and gender can be deficient. As an example of a moisture-born being, consider a mosquito or other similar creature. If you take some pork or chicken, or perhaps some fish, and set it out for a couple of weeks, what happens? Maybe a 221 Las Vegas Sayadaw creature will be born, right? This is an example of a moisture-born being. They come from blood or fruits or flowers, or maybe from a marsh. Spontaneous-born beings. Spontaneous-born beings include devas, or celestial beings, and brahmas. These beings don't have to stay in a mother's womb for 9 months. Instead, they are spontaneously born. Think of these beings as like angels or gods. The rebirth of these beings is in the form of a fully grown-up person. According to their karma, they are reborn in this way. This is what is meant by a spontaneous-born being. At conception, these beings obtain eye decad, ear decad, nose decad, tongue decad, body decad, sex decad, and heart-base decad. There are no deficiencies or exceptions. As such, we will never encounter a blind or deaf angel because these beings fully have all 7 decades at patisandhi. And during the course of their existence, they have all rupas. How many rupas are there? 28, all of which can be obtained by these beings. Here, devas should be understood to sometimes include both celestial beings and beings in the Brahma worlds. While the word deva is sometimes used to refer only to celestial beings, it is sometimes used to refer to Brahmas as well. But what about spontaneous-born beings for apaya? Apaya is a woeful person. How many decades do these beings have at conception? 7. These 7 are similar to those for moisture-born beings, in that their eye, ear, and sex decades can be deficient. In contrast to moisture-born beings, these beings have just 3 decades that can be deficient. Q. What about a nose? They need to have a nose. The nose is not deficient, but the eyes, ears, or gender may be. During the course of their existence, they can have all rupas, except for those that may be deficient. And what about spontaneous-born beings at the beginning of the human world? The first humans to appear in this world did not have parents. Instead, they were spontaneously born from the Brahma world. Those beings had just 6 decades: eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and heart. They 222 analysis of matter had no gender. In other words, The first human beings to come to this world were genderless. Even nowadays, though, sex decade is not always obtained. Sometimes a person is born not strictly male or female, right? This means that sometimes the sex decade is not obtained in the human world. During the lifetime of these beings we're talking about now, all rupas are obtained except for the two types of bhava. They may or may not have bhava because it could be deficient. Womb-born beings. With womb-born beings, body decade, sex decade, and heart-based decade are manifested at the moment of conception. In other words, at the moment that rebirth consciousness arises, these three kalapas are manifested. Even though they are just small particles at that time, they are still present. All 28 rupas can be obtained during the lifetime of womb-born beings. However, eyes, ears, nose, and gender can be deficient. This means that a human being can be blind, deaf, genderless, or lack nose sensitivity. We're talking here about how many kalapas and rupas can be obtained at conception and during lifetimes by the four kinds of beings. Let's talk now about Rupavakara Bhumi, or the form sphere, fine material sphere. How many Rupavakara Bhumi do we have? 16. Excluding mindless beings, there are 15 planes in this realm. At Patisandhi, 4 kinds of kalapas are obtained for Rupavakara Brahmas. These include eye decade, ear decade, heart-based decade, and vital nonad. They do not have nose decade, tongue decade, body decade, or sex decade, as they have no nose sensitivity, tongue sensitivity, body sensitivity, or gender. I may have mentioned to you before that even though they don't have nose sensitivity, they still have a nose. I mean that there is still the shape of a nose, though they cannot smell. They are unable to experience smell. Similarly, they lack tongue sensitivity and do not eat like we do. Instead, they live off of their jhana, their piety. Furthermore, they cannot touch something and know whether it's soft or hard, as they don't have body sensitivity. If you use your hair to touch something, you can't feel it, right? It's the same. These beings also don't have gender. They lack masculinity or femininity, though their appearance is like man. 223 Las Vegas Sayadaw. Also, I would like you to remember something else about these beings. Although we might sometimes see 4-faced statues of Brahma, these beings only have one face. Many people don't understand this, and when they see a 4-faced statue, they think all Brahmas have 4 faces. This is just because someone made a statue with faux R faces. But, in reality, Brahmas have just one face. If you want, you can make a 10-faced statue, but really, Brahmas have just one face. They don't have nose, tongue, body, or sex decades, so at the time of Patisandhi, they obtain only eye, ear, heart, and jivita. Q. What's the difference between spontaneous-born devas and Rupavakara beings? Right now, we're talking about Brahmas, born in the 15 Rupavakara planes. During their lifetimes, have many kalapas can be obtained for these beings. 4 kalapas born of kama, eye, ear, heart, and vital, nonad. How many kalapas born of kama are there? 9. They include eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, the 2 bhava, heart, and vital nonad. Did you forget these already? Of the 21 material groups, 9 are produced by kama, 6 are produced by mind, 4 are produced by utu, and 2 are produced by ahara. Here, what produces eye, ear, heart, and vital nonad? Kama. In addition to these 4, there are also the 6 kalapas produced by mind and the 4 kalapas produced by utu. This totals 14 kalapas. Do these beings have kalapas produced by ahara? No, because they don't have to eat. In detail, then, how many rupas do they have? 23. What are they? This includes all material properties, except nose sensitivity, tongue sensitivity, body sensitivity, femininity, and masculinity. They do not have these 5 rupas, but they have the remaining 23 rupas. So 14 groups, including 4 produced by kama, 6 produced by mind, and 4 produced by UTU and 23 rupas are obtained for beings in the fine material plane. I would like you to remember how many kalapas and how many rupas are obtained by Brahmas at conception and during their lifetime. Okay, now, how many kalapas are there for Rupavaksharbhumi mindless beings at Patisandhi? Only one. What is it? Jivita Navaka or vital nonad? What is vital nonad produced by Kama? We have 9 kalapas that are produced by Kama, right? This is the last one of those. Because of their previous Kama, they obtained the 224 analysis of matter, 5th J.H. Anna. This Kama, Kana, Satana, volition, associates with 5th J.H. Anna. This Kama produced this person to be reborn in this plane. We have 19 kinds of rebirth consciousness, right? For mindless beings, their Patisandhi is Rupa Patisandhi, which is Jivitanavaka. This is the Patisandhi for mindless beings. What is Jivitanavaka? It is the inseparable 8 in vitality. These 9 are called Jivitanavaka. How many kalapas are obtained during the course of a mindless being's lifetime? There is Jivitanavaka, as well as pure octad and mutabilities of Utuja Kalapa. How many kalapas are produced by UTU? 4, right? Among the 3 kalapas obtained during the lifetime of mindless beings, there is Jivitanavaka, and 2 from Utuja pure octad and mutabilities. These are the only 3 kalapas these beings obtain during their lifetime. So at the time of conception, these beings obtain only Jivitanavaka, but they obtain a total of 3 kalapas during their lifetime. What about matter? In detail, how many do they obtain? 17 rupa. We determined that Rupavakara Brahma obtained 23 rupas, right? So we can subtract 6 from that for mindless beings. What are the 6? They don't have eye sensitivity, ear sensitivity, heart or nutriment. They don't eat. They also lack bodily intimation and vocal intimation. If we subtract these 6 from the 23 rupas obtained by Rupavakara Brahmas, that leaves 17 rupas obtained by mindless beings during their lifetimes. If you'd like to know them one by one, that's okay too. They are the inseparable 8, vitality, the 3 mutabilities, space element, and the 4 characteristics of matter. These 17 rupas are obtained by mindless beings during the course of their lifetimes. We've been talking about the conception and lifetimes of moisture-born beings, spontaneous-born beings, and womb-born beings, right? I'd like you to note that at the moment of rebirth consciousness, there are 8 material properties that are not obtained. At the time of Patisandhi, there is no sound, no lightness, no pliancy, and no adaptability, nor is there vignati, decay jar-ah, or impermanence. Impermanence is the last of the 28 kinds of material properties, right? These 8 kinds of material properties are not obtained at the very moment of Patisandhi. This is the case for all beings. This doesn't mean that they won't be obtained 6 or 9 months later. It just means that these 8 are not obtained at the very first moment of Patisandhi. 225 Las Vegas Sayadaw. So let's talk now about the first arising and final cessation of matter. The first one in the thought process that we'll look at is the last one, Kudoi, or death consciousness. Reckoning backward from there, we have 17 thought moments. But we have Kama-born matter, mind-born matter, temperature-born matter, and nutriment-born matter, right? I'd like to talk about the precise moment of the first arising and final cessation of the various types of matter. From the time of death consciousness, we can reckon backward 17 thought moments. For each of these 17 thought moments, there are 3 minor instances, right? There is apada, arising, thiti, static, or presence, and bhanga, cessation. So reckoning backward for 17 thought moments, from kuti, we have the last moment of arising of Kama-born matter. When does Kama-born matter arise? From the arising of Patisandhi, Kama-born matter arises in every sub-moment, right? But the last moment of arising of karma-born matter is the 17th upada reckoning backward from kuti. That moment is the last arising of karma-born matter. From the static stage there is no more karma-born matter arising, it stops here, precisely. Again, the last moment of arising is upada. At thiti, no more karma-born matter arises. Let's look more closely at kuti. Death consciousness has 3 minor instances, right? The time of its arising is the last moment of the arising of mind-born matter. The cessation, bhanga, moment of kuti consciousness, is the final cessation of karma-born matter. It is also the last moment of arising of nutriment-born matter. This is very precise, right? So karma-born matter arose earlier and exists until kuti, at which time it ceases together with death consciousness. Understand that, right? When does karma-born matter start to arise? At the time of patisandhi. At the moment of conception, karma-born matter arises. It continues every moment during our lifetime, karma-born matter, arising and disappearing until death consciousness arises and ceases. Karma-born matter ceases together with death consciousness. This is the final cessation of karma-born matter. It is also the last moment of arising of nutriment-born matter. What we've eaten is just diffused through our body. When death consciousness arises and ceases, at that moment nutriment-born matter has its last moment of arising. There is no more arising after that. 2.26. Analysis of matter. So, here, karma-born matter ceases at that moment. But nutriment-born matter has its last moment of arising, not ceasing. It keeps going. Perhaps I should give you an example. If someone dies suddenly in an accident, they still have eyes, right? Because of this nutriment-born matter, perhaps a doctor will take the eyes, or the heart, etc., so that they can be used by another person. See? The person dies, but it doesn't mean that there isn't still use for certain parts. This is why doctors will harvest the eyes, liver, kidney, or hearts of suddenly deceased people. As another example, if we cut off the head of a snake, sometimes they don't die right away, right? They still wiggle around. They still have nutriment-born matter. Anyway, after death consciousness arises and ceases, we have to be reborn again into another life, unless we are an arahant. This patisandhi does not produce mind-born rupa, because the patisandhi is a newcomer to this new life, this fresh existence. As such, it is very weak. That's why it can't produce any of this rupa. But patisandhi has 3 minor instances. At the first arising moment is the arising of karma-born matter. When does this karma-born matter cease? At kutiya. At the last moment of kuti of the previous life, karma-born matter ceases, and then we start a new life, patisandhi. At the first upada of patisandhi, karma-born matter will arise again. At the thiti moment of patisandhi, there is the arising of temperature-born matter. And after patisandhi, bhavanga arises. At the upada moment of that first bhavanga, there first arises mind-born matter. It continues arising and disappearing, for the first bhavanga, the second bhavanga, and on to the 15th bhavanga. Then, there is the final cessation of mind-born matter of the previous life. So this matter is produced. But about 15 moments after kuti, mind-born matter ceases. Q. So it can carry on to the next life? This doesn't mean that it carries on from this life to another life. With respect to mind-born matter, after kuti there is patisandhi, which is followed by 15 bhavangas. So 16 thought moments go by, and then mind-born matter ceases. 227 Las Vegas Sayadaw. But this doesn't mean that it continues to the next life. It means that after kuti arises and ceases, there are 16 thought moments, and then mind-born matter ceases. Q. It ceases in that life? Yes, in that body. See? This teaching tells us exactly when these things occur. But it doesn't mean that you die in this life and matter continues to another body. It doesn't mean that. This teaching tells us in which thought moment things occur. So after Kuti there is the Patisandhi thought moment. Then there are 15 bhavangas. That's a total of 16 thought moments. At that moment, mind-born matter ceases. What about the final cessation of nutriment-born matter of the previous life? Nutriment-born matter ceases at the static moment of the 16th bhavanga after Kuti. This is all just for knowledge. We're learning exactly when the first arising and final cessation of matter occurs. So after death consciousness arises and disappears, there is the Patisandhi thought moment. Then there are 16 bhavangas. So these 16 plus Patisandhi is how many thought moments? 17. But it's not a complete 17 thought moments because of Thiti. Thiti is not the first moment or the last moment, right? It's the middle moment or the static moment. Right there, nutriment-born matter ceases. So I'm trying to teach you about matter. This is very interesting and important. Kama-born matter arises at the time of Patisandhi. Mind-born matter arises at the second moment of consciousness. In other words, after Patisandhi, mind-born matter arises at the first bhavanga. UTU-born matter arises at the static stage of Patisandhi. And food-born matter, from the time of diffusion of nutritive essence, uninterruptedly flows on in the sensuous sphere, Kama world, until the end of our life. This matter, starting from Patisandhi, Kama-born matter, mind-born matter, UTU-born matter, and Ahara-born matter, just arise and disappear and continue until the end of our lives, as like the flame of a lamp or a river flowing. 228. Analysis of matter A. River just flows, right? In the same way, our matter looks like the flame of a lamp or the stream of a river. It just flows. It continues from Patisandhi until the end of our life. At the end of our life, Kuta consciousness arises and ceases, and it then starts again with Patisandhi. Unless we are an arahant, we have to be reborn again. We will have a new life, a new matter, and a new Patisandhi. This happens again and again. Think about this life. Think about Patisandhi. One day, we will die. After we die, we will have to be reborn again. We could be reborn as a human being, a celestial being, or perhaps as a Brahma, or even an animal. Who knows? Then, you will eventually die from that life and start again. And again and again. The cycle of rebirth and death continues on, and on Patisandhi and Kuti, then after Kuti, Patisandhi again. Q. Depending on the being, can there be an extended period of time between final cessation and the next rebirth? Or is rebirth immediate? Immediate. After Kuti, there is immediately Patisandhi. Q. I've heard that in Tibetan Buddhism they talk about a gap between the time of one's death and the beginning of their next life. Can you talk about that? That is Mahayana Buddhism. What you're talking about is according to their view. But from the Theravada Buddhist point of view, Patisandhi arises immediately after Kuti. After Patisandhi, we might see a person and say, oh, we lost this person so long again, but now we have found him again. But just because you are only now seeing this person again doesn't mean that they had just been reborn in the subsequent existence since you last knew them. In the interim period, they could have been reborn as an angel, an animal, or perhaps a ghost. Then, perhaps they died from that life, and were then reborn as the human being that you just encountered again. Does that make sense to you? In reality, rebirth happens instantly. To think otherwise is wrong view. Some people say, after we die there will be 7 days, or a month, or 99 days, and then... But, really, after death consciousness arises and ceases, rebirth consciousness arises immediately. 229 Las Vegas Sayadaw Q. So when someone passes away, and we ask a monk to come and pray for them to have a good rebirth, the dead person is already in a new lifetime? Yes. This is a very good question, by the way. According to the Buddhist point of view, A person who is attached to his family or property when he dies may often be reborn as a hungry ghost or a spirit. A hungry ghost suffers over everything, both mentally and physically. Hungry ghosts need our help. As such, after we do something meritorious, it's good for us to do a special prayer or chanting that expresses our desire to share our good merit with them. We might say, "We were generous," or "We meditated," or took additional precepts. We share this merit with you. May you receive it and sadhu feel happy about it. Then, if the hungry ghost receives our message and has sadhu at our merit, then he may die from that life and perhaps be reborn as a human being again. This can happen very quickly, even right away. This is why we have special things that we do for hungry ghosts. Sometimes, a hungry ghost will find its way into your dreams. You may dream that your mom said to you, "My daughter, I am very hungry." When you wake up, you may feel motivated to offer food to the monks and then share the merit of that good deed with your dead mother. Perhaps the next night, you might dream again. In the dream, your mom might say, "I'm very happy. I'm okay now." See? They might find their way into your dreams. So this is why we do these special things. Q. Does the ghost need to have been a Buddhist for this to benefit them? If the person believed in the law of cause and effect in their previous life, that good karma may lead them to believe it in the next life too. See, if they understand the law of cause and effect, then it's Panya wisdom too. Then, when we transfer our merit to them, they are very happy and come to accept our good wishes. They may then die immediately from that life. This is why the Buddha said that it is our duty as a son or a daughter to do this for our parents. Even if our parents passed away and were reborn as human beings or celestial beings, it is still our duty to do this for them. We should consider it our duty. 230 Analysis of matter. But, sometimes, the intended recipient of our shared merit cannot accept it right then. In that case, it could potentially benefit another being. I'll give you an example. You take some food and place it on a table for someone to receive it. Maybe that person doesn't come for it. But perhaps another needy person will come and take it. So there are many, many hungry ghosts. Even if the one we intend to share our merit with doesn't receive it, perhaps another one will. Also, the Buddha said that we should consider our parents in previous lives as well. We had other parents in previous lifetimes too, right? We've had other parents, grandparents, friends, and relatives. Any of these beings can be the recipients of our good merit. And that's why we do this. See? It's not only for the benefit of the intended recipient, it's special for that person, or for others. Karma plays a role in the lives of ghosts too. Although they are suffering in their new life, they might not want to share the merit you are offering them. It depends on their karma. Perhaps it is their karma that they have to suffer like this. Let's look at another example. You might have a person born in a very poor village. You might see the person and say, "You're very poor but also very smart. I'd like to help you. Come stay with me in the city, where you can get a good education and have good food." But maybe he doesn't want to go with you. Perhaps he'd rather stay in the village with his family. It depends on their karma, right? Reproductive karma can make someone a hungry ghost. We try to transfer our merit to them so that they can be reborn in a new, better life. But if they still have bad karma, they might not want our shared merit. Or, even if we give them good things, perhaps they don't think our things are good. Maybe they are attached to their current existence and happy with it. This doesn't only apply to hungry ghosts. Even if a miserable and sickly dog had an opportunity to die and be reborn as a human being, it may be afraid to die and would thus remain in its state of suffering. Why? Because it's attached to its life. In a similar way, a hungry ghost might think, "I'm fine. I don't have to keep a job." Right? Maybe they are happy with their state of being. 231. Las Vegas Sayada. We have angels even in the human world, but their life is not like angels living in heaven. Depending on their karma, they can do good things too. When they do, they elevate their own position higher and higher. the angel could die and be spontaneously reborn again. Q. Once you're reborn in the next life, can you remain there? Why does an angel become an angel? Let's shift gears a bit and talk about remembering past lives. In order to do so, we have 3 things that need to be fulfilled. 1. In the previous life, you must have wished to remember that life. For example, in that life you must have had the resolve, by the power of my meritorious deeds, in my next life may I remember this life. And when you die, you don't suffer. If you suffer too much, then you'll forget the previous life and won't remember anything. So your wish to remember should be coupled with a death free from suffering, such as a sudden accident or without intense pain. 2. During the 8 to 10 months that you're in your mother's womb, there should be no problems. Your mother should take good care of you and try to keep you comfortable. Patisandhi has bhavanga, right? What does bhavanga take? An object of previous kamma nimitta, right? If the birth is easy, then this bhavanga will remember the previous life. But if not, you won't remember because you were perhaps scared or traumatized in your mother's womb. Maybe your mother didn't take good care of you. Perhaps the way she behaved, sat, stood, lifted things or otherwise created discomfort for you in the womb became the trauma that caused you to forget your previous life. Your bhavanga could then not take the previous object and you lost your memory. 3. If you're very comfortable in the womb and perhaps born normally, you might still experience a lot of discomfort very early in life. Perhaps you were born in a poor village 232 analysis of matter without quality medical care. Or perhaps your mother was 40 years old, you were a big baby, and birth was painful. This pain could trigger your loss of memory of the previous life. So to remember our past lives, we should have the resolve in the previous life for our good deeds to help us remember that past life, and we should have a death free from suffering. While in our mother's womb, our mother should take good care of us and keep us comfortable, and when we're born, we shouldn't experience strong discomfort. If these 3 are fulfilled, then you'll remember. For the first year or 2 of your new life, you may be able to remember everything from the previous life. You may remember things that you learned before. But if you lack one of these 3, you will lose that memory. Some people can remember parts of their previous lives for the first few years of their new life, but they tend to forget it all after that. It depends on the person, the karma, the wish, and the situation. Q. How helpful is it to remember past lives? Is it any help? Oh yes, much depends on our good thoughts. If we could remember our past life, we might reflect, I was very poor then, but now I'm a human being in a better position in life. I should try to do good things as often as I can. See, it depends on our thoughts. If we practice meditation and gain jhana, then we can use our super knowledge, abhinya, to remember past lives. And not just one previous life. We can remember thousands of previous lives. Q. Can you talk about the connection between our old karma and our new mother and father? This depends on our karma. To have good parents, we need good karma. Good reproductive karma will send us to be reborn into a good family. On the other hand, if we have bad karma, then that karma will send us to be reborn in a poor family. This is the connection. Also, in a previous life, perhaps you and your parents used to get together and do meritorious or bad things. Now, in this life, you may have to suffer or experience joy together. So yes, there is a connection. The Buddha said that there is no one who was not a member of our family in a previous life. In other 233 Las Vegas Sayadaw words, we all used to be family members. Everyone was once a part of our family. Sometimes we spend time with other people who feel like family even if they're not. That's because they used to be our family. Similarly, we don't like talking to people who were our enemies in past lives. The feelings are different, right? This depends on this life or our previous life, and what things, good or bad, that we and they have done. This is our connection to others. Q. If you had a difficult birth and forgot your past life, can you eventually remember it if you meditate and gain jhana? Can you overcome a difficult birth if you gain jhana? Yes. Try to practice meditation as much as you can. Q. If our parents have bad karma, Will it affect us too? If we are reborn as the child of parents with bad karma, it's because we did bad karma together with them in the past. And this is why we have to suffer together in this life. Some families suffer and die together, right? But if we were fortunate enough to be born good and into a good family, according to the power of our past or present good karma, we have the opportunity to help others to be happy. If you have $1 million, you can help a lot of people, right? The Buddha had good karma, and he used his great wisdom to help so many people. Okay, let's finish talking about rupa, or matter. Traditionally included in this chapter of the teachings is nibbana. We have 4 realities, right? They include citta, consciousness, cetasika, mental factors, and rupa, matter. We've talked about all of those. Now we go to nibbana. Are you happy to go there now? 234.